So our skin was designed for that. We have thousands of vitamin D receptors everywhere. And those vitamin D receptors need to be brimming with vitamin D. And the type of vitamin D that we create when our skin is exposed to the sun's rays is different than the vitamin D supplement. Vitamin D supplement, and we do want vitamin D from our foods, but it's fat. It's a fat soluble situation. It's still useful, especially like myself. I live in Canada, and I've seen like supplementation of vitamin D really help people through cavities and that type of thing. But it is a different type of D, and it's not the whole picture. And we're still going to need to have our skin get some of those rays as well.
Hey, this is Ari. Welcome back to the Energy Blueprint podcast. In this episode, I have on the show for the second time Nadine Artemis, who is the author of Renegade Beauty and Holistic Dental Care, and she's the creator of Living Libations, which is my family's, especially my wife's, personal favorite line of skincare and personal care products. It is a uniquely pure and pristine line of products. No synthetic chemicals, no bad ingredients. I mean, just best of the best pure ingredients in every single formula. Nadine is as much of a geek about personal care product ingredients as I am. And I just love that about her. So she's on the show to talk about her wonderful formulations. We're going to talk a lot about, I think the majority of the podcast is actually a lot of her thoughts on sun exposure, how to do it safely, misconceptions people have around sun exposure, and how to get the benefits of sun without being harmed by it. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with my friend Nadine Artemis. Nadine, it is such a pleasure to have you back on the show. It's been way too long.
I'm so happy to be here with you today. Thank you for having me.
So check this out. We were just chatting for 5 or 10 minutes before we started recording, but I didn't show you all these things I have next to me.
Yeah.
This, I have this. These are, for people listening and not watching the video, these are Nadine's products. Best Skin Ever. This is probably one of our favorites. We have used these products, and I'm not just saying this because, you know, I'm an affiliate of yours, but we have literally used these products for, I think it's been 4 or 5 years since the last time we were on a podcast together.
Wow, and it was that long ago. Wow.
I think so. And we've traveled all over the world with your products. My wife never goes anywhere without taking, especially this one, Best Skin Ever, Sea Buckthorn. Her and my kids are crazy about this one. And yeah, I mean, that's the highest compliment that I can possibly give somebody, is that we actually, and like, I'm one of the most discerning people that you could imagine when it comes to anything I put in or on my body. And we religiously use your products. So,
oh, I love that. Thank you. That is so beautiful to hear. And I love too that it's good for the whole family, as it, that's how we create it. And I'm so hardcore about what goes in and on my body. So we meet.
Yes, exactly. So, and you can see based on, looking at the ingredient list that there is nothing even remotely questionable in this. You go on Amazon and you look at personal care products for skin creams, anti-aging creams, and you see all these just long list of chemical names. And it's like, well, what is this stuff? And I got to look up what this thing is and what the safety profile is on it. And, I'm going to digress into a whole other shtick from what we're intending to talk about here. But people think, I remember as a kid growing up assuming that when I saw this long list of chemical names and ingredient lists of products that, oh, well, all of these things must be tested very thoroughly and checked to make sure that they're very safe. We have long-term safety trials on all of this stuff showing that it's all perfectly safe. And they've even probably tested all these combinations of this chemical plus this chemical plus this chemical. And it's just funny to look back on the time in my life where I made those kind of assumptions, now knowing the reality of how little testing goes on, and especially when you start talking about combinations of different substances, we have basically zero data in most cases. And then we can get into a discussion of non-monotonic dose relationships where some of these compounds are even quite harmful in very minute doses. Sunscreen is a good example of this, where compounds that are widely used in sunscreen products have actually, like, we have pretty good data showing that they're endocrine disrupting and that they're harmful, and yet they're still everywhere in sunscreen products. So a lot of these kind of assumptions that we grow up with just turn out to be wrong. And anyway, all of this is to say that it's a joy to find somebody who makes skincare products with only pristine ingredients.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's truly my pleasure. And I kind of had the same experience growing up because I would, just would bathe and read the oils on the back of stuff, even when I'm in the bath, and you just assume those words and that language and that it's all just normal. And then I got to 18 and I always had a curiosity. I mean, my bathroom was crazy. I was like even mixing those bottles, but I got a book on how to read and dissect labels at the supermarket, which was like mind blowing at that time. I feel like it's a lot more common knowledge now, but it was like, brown sugar is white sugar with molasses. All bran has basically cardboard fiber. Or like cheese and soup wouldn't have the 20 other ingredients in it. You know what I mean? So I saw that and it was literally like, then I look at my skincare products in the bathroom and a lot of it was Body Shop at that time. It's like the late 80s and we think it's green. And then I'm looking and it's like the same petroleum promised land. And I was like, oh my God, it's the food, it's the cosmetics. But in that moment, literally, I was like, oh my God, that means I like kind of get to make my own stuff because I feel like that's all I ever secretly wanted to do anyway when I was growing up was like mix things. And then it gave me such purpose and clarity to really go for like what was totally pure.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk to you about something related to skincare that I know you've been delving deeply into for many, many years now. And it's an area of interest and a passion that we both share. And that is sunlight.
Mhm.
And sunlight is almost a bad word when it comes to the skin. Among most conventional dermatologists, the recommendation is pretty simple, like essentially avoid sun exposure on your skin. If you do get sun exposure, make sure that you have sunscreen on. And we have this relationship with the sun, which is this star in the sky, this ball of fire in the sky that our ancestors have evolved under for millions of years. Yet we modern humans are convinced that it's toxic for us and that we need to avoid it. I mean, just understanding things from an evolutionary context in the way that I just said makes that idea sound totally absurd and extraordinarily implausible on the surface. So something has to be wrong here, and usually it's not the evolutionary rationale. Having said that, there is a sizable body of evidence on ultraviolet radiation, and obviously we know it can we know it can damage our skin. We know it can cause DNA damage. We know it can cause sunburn. We know it can, in some cases, there's a body of evidence showing it can contribute to certain types of skin cancers, and hence why most dermatologists are widely recommending people to stay out of the sun. What's your take on all this landscape? How do you sort of like on a big picture meta level, how do you understand what's going on here?
Yeah, well, you laid it out really well, and it is a very nuanced landscape, so to speak. So, yeah, so some things that society says right now are right, and some studies aren't. Like even the studies, if we look at the studies, they're so faulty. And I'm going to speak generally here, but of course, like in my book and stuff, like I do footnote everything, and we got the studies and the dates and the journals, so just know that. Yeah, there's so many angles to unpack here. So, gosh,
We have all the time in the world, so just
there
start
you go.
start with
Yeah.
one. Don't even worry about brief answers. Let's spend some time on this,
Okay.
unpacking different aspects of it.
If we go to the full general thing, you're so right. Like the sun and our evolutionary nature, like we've grown up together, so to speak, through our ancestors and present day. So our skin was literally designed to be exposed to sunshine, just like every single living organism on the planet, except maybe the fish in the deep scattering layer or something, that literally get no sunlight, but everything literally corresponds and connects and thrives and lives because of the sun. But somehow we think it's this Death Star, and we can't even like walk from the mall to the parking lot without sunscreen on, or like the advice of. And so many beautiful, well-intentioned like people in, beauty realms, or well, probably not the healthcare realms, but yeah, well, healthcare, if we think of like, somehow I was thinking dermatologists weren't part of the healthcare, but they are. So whether it's, doctors or beauty people or estheticians, the number one thing for anti-aging is apparently stay out of the sun. That's the advice you hear time and time again. And yeah, I'm here to kind of say otherwise, because our skin needs the sun. It's one reason why everybody's obsessed with red light right now. Because when we deny the sun, we're denying like the full wavelength of all of its juice and its joy juice. So yes, I'm sure we've all been burnt by the sun, and it can burn, but that doesn't mean we should just like shun it forever and put on this SPF 50. So we do want to expose our skin to the sun. And if you feel, at the end of all this, you feel a bit shy, just don't then put a hat over for your face, or you know what I mean? Then don't go for it with your face, and you can work your way to that. And, but just know that so our skin was designed for that. We have thousands of vitamin D receptors everywhere. And those vitamin D receptors need to be brimming with vitamin D. And the type of vitamin D that we create when our skin is exposed to the sun's rays is different than the vitamin D supplement. Vitamin D supplement, and we do want vitamin D from our foods, but it's fat. It's a fat soluble situation. It's still useful, especially like myself. I live in Canada, and I've seen like supplementation of vitamin D really help people through cavities and that type of thing. But it is a different type of D, and it's not the whole picture. And we're still going to need to have our skin get some of those rays as well. So UV B is the one that creates vitamin D, and UVA is one that can kind of create sun damage. So a lot of the dermatological studies on the UVA were done in a lab with lights and looking at that photo toxicity, so to speak. And that's very different than being in the sun. And when we apply SPF and sunscreen, we are literally then like receiving the sun's rays split. So the sunscreen or SPF will block your skin from receiving UVB, but it will still receive UVA. And without UVB, the sun's rays get a little more damaging. So being in the sun with sunscreen, forget even all the chemicals and the endocrine disruption, will literally give you no vitamin D because you've disconnected from the UVB, and you will only get UVA isolated. And then that's a bit sun damaging. And one of the studies I have in my book is a Cochrane review study, and that's where they review like studies and then put them all together. So this one reviewed about 14 studies on sun and skin and then put them together and then merged those findings. And the long and short of that was the more sunscreen use, the more chance of getting moles, freckles, and various skin cancers. So that kind of throws some of that out the window. And then what we're seeing from other studies, like in the New England Journal of Medicine, even back as far as I think this was 89 or 90, they talk about melanoma, like your chances of developing melanoma increase the more artificial sunlight you're exposed to, the less recreational outdoor time you're exposed to, or the farther you live away from the equator.
Say that one more time, I think, because I think you said artificial sunlight. You mean artificial indoor, right?
Thank you. Yeah, like artificial. Thank you. Like fluorescent lighting. So, you're working, you're exposed to that fake light all day. And then maybe you go to like Cuba for 1 week or something, So we don't want to have that kind of living with the sun either. So knowing all those things, that kind of does like upend a lot of dermatology, a lot of like what we think is causing the cancer, because those are very serious cancers. But the studies are showing it doesn't necessarily seem like it is the sun. And then on the flip side of that, it's probably gone up a bit now, but there's about 3,000 studies. I mean, this is about 10 years ago, so I think there would be more, showing that a lack of vitamin D can create various types of cancer. So, you know what I mean? So we've got this like lack of vitamin D creating cancer, and then it's the sunscreen solution that could be creating a cancer environment or our artificial lighting. And I feel like really in the past 10 years as well, as you know, as a health community, we've learned a lot more about the circadian rhythm. And that's kind of, so we need the sun for that. So let's also think about the sun as, so we think of it as this thing that tans us or doesn't tan us, and then maybe that's all that we think it's good for. But when we just think of the tanning or the not tanning, we're forgetting all the other sort of nuances throughout the day. So it's good to get like a circadian app, or like I have one called DMinder, and it just helps you know, like from your exact longitude and latitude, where the sun is in that day, month, year, time, how much you know, the whole sun picture. And then you can even track your tanning with it, and you can know, oh, I've been out for an hour, so now I have like this many international units of vitamin D. So that's very handy, because D is something that we need continually. Like you can't just, you know, be in the sun once, okay, got my vitamin D, or have a course of a bottle and then you're done, because it's like literally a constant thing that needs to be supplied in the body to keep like thousands of genes expressing themselves properly and kind of not going down that disease pathway. So yeah, so there's this, so there's the artificial light, and then we forget that there's sunlight. You know what I mean? So we haven't created our living rhythms around the sun anymore either. And sort of that's where we can see other vulnerabilities to cancer. So there's a few things we've talked about, just because we're gonna keep going, but like we've got sunscreens beyond the endocrine disruption are literally just giving you the UVA and damaging. It'd be like going into your car, like let's say you're a truck driver and every night at 5 you're on the westbound highway and you got that sun coming through, you know, the window. And so that arm would be like way more freckled because the window is blocking the UVB, and then you're just getting the UVA on its own. That's kind of like sunscreen.
I think sunscreens do block UVA, right?
I mean, yeah, sorry, no, they just block the UVB, and they're giving you just access to that damaging ray. Now, if you got a lot of sunlight in your house, that's fine, because you're not like sitting in it all day long. Like it's just lighting up the whole atmosphere.
Mhm.
And we do need like daylight to just also help regulate our, which nothing to do necessarily with, you know, obviously tanning, but just to regulate our circadian rhythms. So there's the sunscreen, the SPF that's blocking what we need from the sun. It's and endocrine disruption. And I mean, ingredients like oxybenzene, which are allowed in the US sunscreen, but not Europe. And that ingredient is one of the main active ingredients. And it is not carcinogenic until it's exposed to light. That's one of the main ingredients in US sunscreen. And it's an endocrine disruptor and all that sort of stuff. So that, you know, so we don't want to access the sun through sunscreen. We do want to get sort of in touch with our circadian rhythms. We do want to block artificial light. And we do want to kind of create a relationship with the sun, which starts with dawn. Like if you're up at that time, go find the sun and watch it rise. And if you can be like watching that or out walking your dog at that time, you know, for the first couple of hours of morning, even if it's cloudy, you're getting all this information that we don't even know about yet. And yet we do know some of the stuff. Like there's 12 types of cholesterol that are created when we're exposed to the sun, which is vitamin D, which is a type of cholesterol. It's a cholesterol sulfate. It's water soluble. It's also it's not really a vitamin at all, and it's a precursor to a steroidal hormone. Then there's lumisterol, and I can't remember any of the other ones, but I just find it super fascinating that we're creating that. And we're also creating antimicrobial peptides, cathelicidins, And then the other really cool thing about watching the sun in the morning or being out is that we're getting our melatonin signals and we're creating melatonin by getting that red light in the morning. And that's one of the really fascinating things that I've found out in the past couple of years. You probably know this, but I did not know this about the mitochondria. I always thought our melatonin production was this thing, about nighttime, and it's like coming out of excreted through the pineal gland, and it's all about darkness and sleep. But during the day, and hopefully in that morning when we're getting exposed to that sunlight or red light or your red light panel, then we're creating that daytime mitochondrial melatonin. I didn't even know that the mitochondria produce melatonin. I thought it was all in the pineal gland.
Yeah, this is a relatively
Yeah.
new scientific discovery, mostly Russell Ryder's research, and
Yes.
most people don't know it. In fact, I even interviewed a photobiomodulation expert recently, and even he was unaware of it.
Ah, that's super cool. I learned, I think, from Dr. Schelt,
Uh-huh.
MedCram, and he
Yep.
has a great like 2 hour lecture on YouTube. Um, so it's so fascinating because then, and it makes sense. So we're generating that melatonin in the morning. It's mitochondrial. That is the body's greatest antioxidant, stronger than glutathione, and it's ancient. It seems like melatonin and mitochondria have been sort of dance partners for thousands of years. And why it's so key to
More,
keep the,
more than thousands, millions.
yeah, millions, did you say?
Millions.
Wow.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
mitochondria exist in much more primitive animals than humans. So this relationship evolved, and mitochondrial derived melatonin exists in
Talk
not
about
humans, not
evolutionary
just mammals,
biology.
not but animals much more that existed long before us.
Yeah, that's so cool. And why it's so important in the mitochondria is because it acts like the most awesome cooling fluid. I kind of think of like the ATP, a conversion of energy to the ATP process creates a lot of like free radicals and oxidants. And then the melatonin comes in like a cooling fluid and creates the antioxidants. And so when we're deprived of the daytime creation of melatonin mitochondria, then sleep isn't better. And then what we also learn is that cancers of like the tissue, like a colon or breast or prostate, those kind of cancers, the tumors grow at night in bodies that are deficient in melatonin.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
and
that's
so
what, yeah.
melatonin has known cancer properties. Red and near infrared light. It's funny, I'll say red and near infrared. Russell Ryder in his research refers to it as near infrared, but then I think he puts it at like 680, 670 nanometers, which is really more red light.
Mhm.
I think it's probably not a precise wavelength, but a broader wavelength range that includes red and near infrared. Um, but as you're implying there, the logical extension of melatonin's anti-cancer properties would be, if by consuming it in supplement form in the context of cancer, or it's known to help combat certain
Yeah.
kinds of cancers in studies, um, we presumably, by supporting your body's own natural internal melatonin production, you would also, it's very logical to say this likely has a role in combating cancer. And there's various mechanisms that would lead to that if melatonin is playing a key role in combating oxidative damage,
Mhm.
which we know it is by recharging those internal antioxidant stores. Um, so in that context, it's worth noting that indoor lighting
Mhm.
is uniquely devoid of near infrared light. Basically, all of the lighting that comes from our indoor lights has essentially no near infrared. The old style incandescents did, and
Mhm.
halogens do to some extent, but all the modern LED and fluorescent based lighting that we have in our homes are devoid of it. So now and if we're spending most of our time away from the sun under indoor lighting devoid of near infrared light, and the near infrared light is critical in this story of internal cellular melatonin, mitochondrial derived melatonin. Melatonin has these anti-cancer effects and other roles in the cell. right? People are sort of picking up on this train of logic here.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that's why if you're seeing the video, I'm kind of like yellow right now because I have my incandescent amber bulbs. Because yeah, I can't stare at normal light anymore and like kind of just, put up a podcast light because it's just like I am not used to blue light at all. Like we just don't have light. We have luckily a very light-filled home during the day, even if it's not sunny. And then everything's red or amber at night.
So one of the other things that I want to come back to is
Yeah.
you mentioned briefly, I want to say you mentioned Cuba um,
Just randomly.
in your example, but what you were bringing up is actually an important issue. And this is what's in the literature called intermittent sun exposure. So
Hmm.
as opposed to, let's imagine two groups of people. One is somebody who lives where I am right now in California, who is an outdoor worker, like a gardener, landscaper, construction worker, something like that. They spend hours a day outdoors with parts of their body exposed to sunlight. And the other person is somebody who is an indoor worker. Let's just to exaggerate the point here. Let's imagine they're an indoor worker up in Canada where you are, or up in Seattle, let's say,
Oh, sure.
where it's rainy and gloomy for a big chunk of the year. And then during the winter, they go to Hawaii and they spend a week baking in the sun in Hawaii, but they're normally in their house or in their office, not getting sunlight, or, it's
Their
impossible.
fluorescent lights in their office in front of their monitor all day.
Right. So that pattern is a pattern of intermittent sun exposure where you are not getting it regularly, but then you go get a lot of it. And that is the pattern that has been most decisively linked to skin cancer in the literature.
Yeah, it's like that holiday burn. And
Yes.
if it's repetitive in the same spot. So let's hopefully talk about sort of also how can we engage with the sun safely
Hmm.
and also what we bring sort of it's a relationship as is everything in life, right? Is we're just relating to the entire cosmos, sort of, so to speak. And we have a relationship with the sun, whether we kind of have one or not. Even if you ignore it, you're still in a relationship with it. And if you bring a body that's like just fueled on Coca-Cola and Fruit Loops, then you're bringing like that depleted nutrition and that skin and those cells to the sun as well. And so, you do want to like be hydrated in the sun and then put the right things on your body and in your body. So like you're cooking with olive oil instead of Pam, so to speak,
Hmm.
because everything, kind of gets baked in. So you want to have like clear, clean skin and the right things on it. And, not be drinking Coca-Cola and then jumping into a chlorine pool and then having a tan with some Bain de Soleil.
What are you aware of any more specific sort of lines of research around how one's diet influences one's skin reaction to sun exposure?
Yeah, I do touch upon it a little bit in my book Renegade Beauty in the sun chapter. So there are, I mean, as we thought, pigments in foods probably help. And then they did studies showing that rich pigmented foods do act like an internal sunscreen. So, even like from like a chlorophyll, like just the liquid or like plants rich in chlorophyll, or the red algae is really good and really
Astaxanthin.
good. Yeah, it's like so like, take that before you get into the sun and it really helps. I was actually in Hawaii a couple years ago and this, kind of like 70-year-old classic guy, you can just tell he's lived at the beach for a long time. And he was having a conversation with somebody. He's just talking about how he has the red algae and he gets up there every day. And I just thought, oh, that's so cool to hear. So we can create an internal sunscreen. And then, yeah, depending also on like what we're eating or if we're on the birth control pill, that or if we're eating a lot of mazola, soy, corn, canola oils, then even without the sun, we're gonna, have issues with hyperpigmentation. But then that plus the sun could create way worse melasma or hyperpigmentation. But the root cause of that isn't the sun. It's what's inside our bodies, and
Yeah,
that you can even get hyperpigmentation without.
Even apart
That's
from
it.
the skin pigmentation issue, the omega-6 to 3 ratio in the tissues has been shown to be a
Yes,
significant factor in how the skin responds to sunlight. Um,
exactly. And if we're filled with rancid omega-6s, it's
yeah.
not good.
Yes, and there's even cases of people almost having what they feel, that what they subjectively experience is like they often people will describe this as like having an allergy to the sun. They go out in the sun
Oh, yes.
and then they
Yep.
break out afterwards. Like their skin gets
At hives.
inflamed, they get like pimples or hives, and it's like they have an allergic reaction. And I remember looking into this several years ago, and I remember seeing quite a bit of research linking that specifically to the omega-6 to 3 ratio that's in the tissue.
Oh, that is so cool to know. I didn't know that they'd kind of pinpointed it that specifically.
I mean, it's
That's
probably
good.
not only that, but that's one of the factors that's been
Good
linked.
thing, yeah, because we actually we have, got a few questions about that a year in
Mhm.
client care. I mean, we have other suggestions, but that's really good to look into. Thank you.
So what about on the skin? What have you found? I know I have, let's see, this right here. This is your product called Everybody
Yeah.
Loves the Sunshine. I actually haven't used this, but my wife uses it frequently, and it's golden tanning oil. So what went into this product? What's the sort of the thinking and the science behind it?
I loved creating that product. Back in the 90s, I had gathered all these amazing oils and and going into the sun. And also kind of that was sort of the beginning too of me going, growing up, it was always like, don't be in the sun and here's your all the goop you had to put on. But meanwhile, I would always be like, I was at a school and we weren't allowed to tan. So we'd always be like hiding and then we'd put foil in our books and like just, sit with the sun hitting the foil so we could get tans and stuff. Um, but where was I going with all that? Oh yeah, what are we going to put on the skin? So in the 90s, as I'm, starting to formulate and get into all this stuff, I wanted to really test this stuff out. So I actually was down in Sedona in like July, which is very hot. And I just was, that's when I made like the beginning of the Everybody Loves the Sunshine, looking at the rich pigmented oils like calendula, sea buckthorn. There's such a beautiful blend of ingredients in there. I can't even remember it all. And the skin healing substances like rose and palmarosa and frankincense and geranium and sandalwood and all of those essential oils. We couldn't say this on the website, but they all have studies showing that it repairs the cells from going down malevolent pathways, which is sort of when the cells start to get abnormal and do those things and create skin dysbiosis. So those oils and those essential oils bring things back to a normal balance. And then we've also got, oils like jojoba olive oil. Olive oil is not in there, but those kind of oils are coconut. You can't make an equivalency between one of those oils and an SPF because SPF is literally like a word that's just regulated for synthetic ingredients. However, jojoba olive oil coconut, they all kind of have a relative sort of like SPF of about a 7, 8, 9. Kind of metaphorically, I'm saying that because we can't totally relate them, but they do provide just a little, like, if you could only be on the sun for like 15 minutes, it could take it to 25, 30 for you. You know what I mean? So it can edge things up if you've got that going on. So in Everybody Loves Sunshine, we've got, jojoba and coconut, and then the rich sea buckthorn berry. And then we've also added that red raspberry seed oil. And red raspberry seed oil is really neat because it shows to like scatter the rays. So it can, help to burn somewhat, although I wouldn't like go out with just raspberry seed oil on for like 5 hours. So all that being said, the Everybody Loves Sunshine helps you bring in a deeper tan. It could help prolong your time in the sun. And it definitely would help if you had too much time in the sun and then you need to calm things down. But it's not a sunblock, it's not a sunscreen, it's not an SPF. So it's there for you. And some people, that's all they need, because they've been in the sun for a while or they kind of have a Mediterranean background, and that's all they need. And then we have the same version, Everybody Loves Sunshine, with zinc. And so it's the same formula, and then we've added zinc. And then what zinc does, it's that classic mineral where you see like the lifeguard with the stripe of white on his nose. That is zinc. And of course, we blend it and we've got pigments with it. So we try and downcast that white cast so that it's like not that white. And actually, a lot of people wear it like under their makeup and stuff, even though I'm like, let the skin be free. You don't need the sunblock, but it's okay. But anyway, that will literally block the sun. And that is good because if you are surfing or you're going to be out in the sun and you can't be wearing a hat or like a t-shirt, then that's where I like the zinc one. And for kids, it's good too. Kids need sun and pregnant mamas need sun. The
That's
number one cause, yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
the number one cause of juvenile diabetes is pregnant moms not being deficient in D. So tan those bellies, apply Everybody Loves the Sunshine or the sea blackthorn best skin ever. You will have, I guarantee you, 0 stretch marks. If you do that, get that belly out into the sun and then get your baby out into the sun. Obviously, just little increments. And then when they start running around, kids are a bit different, right? Because they're not like tanning. They're not like generally just lying, ready to receive the rays. They're running around. And so, the sun's going to hit them differently, like the tops of the shoulders or the nose and just like under the eyes. So think about that a bit, or, get them exposed and then, shirt up or put the sunblock on, but give them that time. And so when you have an app that really tells you when the violet rays coming in, then you can really plan. Let's say it's July here in Canada, the vitamin D isn't going to come into the sun to like 9. But like in May, it'll probably be, I don't know, 10:30 in the morning. So you've got at least till 10:30. And for all the women that want to be anti-aging or whatever, like you're good in the sun no matter what until the UV comes. So have that red light, get that original red light, have your red light mask, but like get the real light on your skin. It's so good for the microbiome. And those wavelengths that are cosmically made, not made in a device, are so rich beyond our knowledge right now. Like we know a lot what's going on with the wavelengths, but like 100 years from now, we're going to know more and we're still not going to know what beauty that is and what information we're getting.
Mm-hmm.
So then when the UV is coming in, and then, give yourself half an hour, give your kids half an hour to an hour, depending on your longitude and latitude and what base you've built up. So you want to start slowly but surely and start in the spring and just get that base layer going so that you're ready to rock by June, July. One thing that I'm doing differently is I kind of just would like once the vitamin D left in October, because there's no D like end of October, like November, December, and January here. It starts coming back mid-February. It's so weak though. It's like hilarious. But I've started to just lay out in the winter. Even though I'm not going to get the tan, I just realized like I'm getting everything else. And we have set up sunspots all over our land. We've lived here for 18 years. So we've really got it nailed now, and then I have like a little bean bag that I'll move around the house to just find the sun where I can open up the doors. And then in the winter, I'm sort of half in, half out because it can be like -40.
Wow.
But if the sun is out, and that so helped me get through the winter, because I do like the sun. And I definitely like the winters are long here and we're not away the whole time.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a bit more about practical aspects of sun exposure. I'll mention a couple like contexts that I think are important. One is number one, ancestry and skin type. There's something called Fitzpatrick skin type scale, and we have an internal sunscreen that has been built over millions of years into our skin. It's called melanin. And some people have a lot of it. Some people have much less of it. Some people even have a different type of melanin, depending on their ancestry. And the cool thing is it's malleable. Like you can build it up or it can get weaker depending on your sun exposure. So speaking about me personally, as we were just talking about before we started recording, I spend quite a bit of time in Costa Rica. I surf. So I spend a lot of time on the ocean there. And even in the morning, the sun gets real intense, real fast.
Reflecting off the ocean.
Yes, by 9, yeah, and the reflecting aspect of it. By 9 a.m., 9:30, I mean, you're cooking out there. If you're not in the water, you're kind of overheating from how hot and how intense that sun is.
It's
Um,
true.
and that's a different aspect than sun up in Canada, than sun even in California. It's a different beast that you're interacting
Yeah.
with. And you have the interaction of different places, different geographical locations, how far away you are to the equator, and from the equator in particular is a big factor. And that's now interacting with the qualities of your skin built determined by your ancestry and your genetics. So can
Exactly.
you kind of paint that picture? Oh, I'll mention one thing for me personally. So I have a lot of ancestry from like the Mediterranean region. I'm
Mhm.
very tolerant of the sun. I can handle a lot of sun. Also, my diet is very good. I eat a lot of. I have a good omega-6 to 3 ratio, probably 1 to 1 or 2 to 1, somewhere in there. Um, Maybe 3 to 1. And I have a ton of rich pigments in my diet, and I'm building up my melanin through regular sun exposure. So I have a good tan that gives me a lot of protection. But when
Mhm.
I'm in Costa Rica and I'm surfing, and I might
Mhm.
be on the water for 2 or 3 hours, I will pretty much always wear a zinc-based sunscreen on my face, and I'll pretty much paint it white. I don't really care how I look out there. I need, when you're dealing with that intense of tropical sun for that length of time, you need to put like a face mask on. And almost everybody
Yeah.
does it, even the Ticos, the local Costa Ricans, who have much darker skin genetically. You'll see
Mhm.
them out there with their faces painted as well. But I
Mhm.
don't put sunscreen pretty much anywhere else on my body. And, within a week or two of being down there, I can handle 2, 3 hours in the sun without getting sunburned just by building up my internal melanin.
Yeah. That really, you kind of described like perfect sun relationship, which is good. For sure, from what you said, like, yeah, you got to zinc, and you got, if you're, especially with water sports, I'll send you that version. We have a liquid version and a balm, like a beach balm version, just FYI.
I,
And
I
then with
like
the,
I like
yeah,
the bombs, the stuff that have like beeswax and
yeah,
cacao
because it
butter.
stays,
Yeah,
yeah,
because all the liquidy stuff comes off within 30 minutes or an hour.
yeah, yeah. So the balm would make a lot more sense in your application. And with the Fitzpatrick scale too, I feel like, yeah, like I have some Mediterranean, but also some English Irish situations.
Mhm.
And I definitely feel like I have gone up in the Fitzpatrick scale. The darker your skin you're born with, the more vitamin D you need.
Yeah.
So so a person from Africa ancestry is going to need more. I gotta let my dog out here. Is going to need
So
more than Irish ancestry person.
So it's both
Uh,
an indication of how tolerant your skin is likely to be to the sun, and an
yes.
indication of how big of a
And what,
dose your skin,
yeah, that you,
your body needs from the sun on a regular basis.
very perfect way to put that for sure. And so we do need ways to protect. Another fun ways is vitamin C is protective. You can make a spray. It's 10% vitamin, like a powder with water, and it is waterproof. So it's a good thing for kids. If you're into peptides, a really fun peptide that we pull out in the tropical times is melanotan.
Mm.
Have you used melanotan?
I know what it is, but I've never used it.
Yeah, okay, so it's one of the peptides called melanotan. It's super fun. Some people call it the Ken and Barbie peptide because it literally makes a tan. It works with your melanocytes. And it's cool, but it can bring out hyperpigmentation more. So just that's the one drawback. So if you are, freckles and some things, it could make it deeper and darker. I have found that instead of injecting it, so it's like obviously a whole peptide convo, but if you're up with the peptides, if you inject it, I find you're just doing like 1 unit, like 1 milliliter. However, what I found better than that is to reconstitute it and make a nasal spray And then, which is even lighter. So like if a freckle was going to get darker, I feel like with the nasal spray, it doesn't get as dark, if that makes any sense. And I will just do literally like a couple of snorts a year. Like I don't do it regularly because it really, you could make a redhead like super dark, like super tanned. It's kind of crazy. And I give it to like my son before he's in Costa Rica, or whatever. I'll usually just give him the injection so it's stronger and he doesn't have any hyperpigmentation. But anyway, my point is, holy cow, is it ever sun protective?
Hmm.
Like I can, because he's never going to wear sunscreen. Like he's just not. And it literally protects him. Like it is so cool. So that he doesn't need to do anything. Ideally, he would probably maybe put a stripe of zinc on his nose when he's out in the ocean fishing all day. But he does wear a hat and stuff, but there's that reflection again coming up. But it is so amazing for that. And then it can prepare your body to, if you're going on a trip or just before the summer starts, it's super cool, super handy. And that one bottle lasts me so long because it's literally just a few snorts a year.
Hmm. Not to digress too much on this topic, but I looked into that several years
Yeah,
ago. I think there's melanotan and melanotan 2, and I think
you're
one
correct.
has um, a genitalia related side effect.
Yeah, so generally it's melanotan 2. Oh, I let you out. Sorry, my dog here. There is melanotan 2 and 1. Generally, people go with the 2. Then it can make you feel sensual, excited. And then, so what they do from that is they derive another peptide from melanotan called PT141, and that is a full libido driver.
Hmm.
But melanotan can sort of boost your libido a bit. Boost libido, have a little tan. It's not too bad. Plus, like on another level, it is. I mean, I don't think I could ever take it enough because I would just get too dark to really go for the other therapeutics. But it's very good for like mold recovery and that kind of stuff.
Hmm. There's one thing I want to come back to, which is I think for context, I want to just give people a little thought experiment to think about to reframe your way of relating to the sun if you've been
Mhm.
told for a long time and or if maybe if you've been told recently by your dermatologist. I was having a conversation with my neighbor just the other day who was all covered up on a beautiful day, and he's been told by his dermatologist that he needs to protect his skin at all times from the sun, so he's been avoiding the sun. So if people listening have been um, under that impression for a long time, I want to give you sort of a way of conceptualizing this in a different way than probably what your dermatologist has presented to you. Now, this is not medical advice for any specific, type of
It's enjoy the
precancerous skin
sunshine
lesion
advice.
or but this is just a way of thinking about things, hopefully in a new way. So let's imagine that there was a drug that reduced your risk of a particular disease by, let's say, 40%. And if you took this drug every day, you'd cut your risk of, let's say, getting Alzheimer's disease by 40%, or let's say by heart disease by 40%. But in the process, it also increased your risk of dementia, and it increased your risk of diabetes, and it increased your risk of several other diseases by 30 or 40%, right? But if you were only looking at the sliver of that overall picture where you said this drug reduces this disease by 40%, it would seem really impressive and like a really smart thing to do, really obvious thing to do. Why wouldn't you take a drug that reduces your risk of that disease by 40%? Until you started to zoom out and not just see that sliver of the pie, but you started to see some other stuff that was going on outside of what you were looking at that showed that that drug also had side effects that increased your risk of other diseases. So when we look at the sun, we can zoom in very narrowly on this picture of sun exposure and skin cancer. Okay, and
Mm.
That's this sliver of the pie. And it's important not to get confused and think that this sliver of the pie is the
Is the pie.
entirety of the whole of the human relationship with the sun, and the relationship of sun exposure to human health. So here's why I say that. There's research, I'll say one notable study out of Sweden, where they looked at about 30,000 women over a long period of time, over decades, and they found that women who avoided sun exposure had a mortality rate of what's called all-cause mortality. This is risk of dying from any cause. So, in other words, now we're starting to look at the whole pie rather than just one potential cause of death. We're looking at all causes of death. Women who avoided sun exposure had a mortality rate, all-cause mortality, that was about twice as high as those who had the highest sun exposure.
Mm.
Okay. So when we look at that picture, now all of a sudden things switch a little bit, and sun avoidance doesn't seem like such a smart strategy anymore. Okay, so how we look at things, and the forest for the trees expression comes to mind here. We want to make sure that we're not so zoomed in on one aspect, one detail of what's going on, that we lose sight of the big picture. And this has been shown in many, many other studies as well. To quantify this risk, they actually showed that sun avoidance was as big of a risk factor for increasing risk of all-cause mortality as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. So this is not a
Wow. I mean, I believe it, but wow.
this is not a
Yeah.
small factor. And if we zoom out, even just within the cancer story, we see that regular sun exposure is actually protective against many other types of cancers, internal cancers, and in many cases that are much more deadly than skin cancer.
Mhm.
So the story is not nearly as simple as just saying, let's look at this sliver of the pie, sun exposure's relationship to skin cancer. Even if we granted, even if we, and I think this is also highly questionable for many reasons that you brought up earlier, but even if we granted the idea that regular sun exposure is causing skin cancer in some very direct and serious way, and there's lots of research that to put that in question, by the way.
Mhm.
But even if we granted that, it would still be the case that sun exposure is broadly protective against many, many other diseases. And the big picture needs to be all-cause mortality. So
Yes.
anyway, I want people to understand the big picture of what's going on and not be so focused on sun, skin cancer.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of infantilizes us as people on the planet. Like we can't not, what do we not know how to get burned? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, so you can't just give, like the doctor can't just say, hey, dude, like here's where you can use the sun, here's where you can't, don't get burnt. So I feel like there's that. I feel like also so much of our modern medicine is just the trees and no forest.
Mhm.
That's why, the skin is separate from just like the teeth are separate, treated separately and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important to that's how I felt like even when I didn't have all the studies to back me up, but I'm in my 20s and I'm like, I don't know, but it just makes me feel good. And I'm going to discover why this is true.
Mhm.
And so, yeah.
What are some other practical aspects of sun exposure, skin care that people might want to be aware of?
Yeah. Well, I just back to like, again, it's like what body are you bringing to that heavenly body to create the tan? We want to have a good, food, like no mazola, and eating with the good oils, the good fats, good pigments, good nutrition, water. But also vitamin D is helpful. So coming out of the winter or whatever, just be sufficient in vitamin D as you get your vitamin D from the sun. That helps prevent burns. And I forgot to mention this when we were talking about melatonin, but melatonin is a phenomenal sun screen. I don't know, sun harmonizer. That's what actually I call our best skin ever, or sorry, our Everybody Loves Sunshine, because it's not a block, it's whatever, but it's going to harmonize your skin with the sun's rays. And so melatonin, like if you have it, so I actually also if I do take melatonin, I do daytime melatonin, kind of like how Dr. John Lawrence, how he has the higher dosing, like Russell Ryder, Doris Lowe, those people all looking at experimenting with high dose melatonin. I've been experimenting with that for the past 3 years. I feel like it's one of the things that has brought down my biological age by taking care of that, by protecting my circadian rhythms, and by, keeping a melanin base has all shown to actually reverse aging from some testing that I've been doing over the past 4 years. So that's kind of fun. And melatonin at these doses is apparently supposed to be anti-aging, so it does seem to be adding up. But it is so sun protective. Again, I can't say, because everybody's going to be different. Are you a redhead going out in the sun? But
You're
it
talking
just
about internal use, right?
yeah, so internal use, so just take some before. Like I don't like that kind of when I did try melatonin like 10 years ago. It had like that one capsule at night. It was very low dose and I didn't sleep well and I didn't get it. Then I started understanding the daytime use and that you could take it during the daytime or at least before, much before bed, because about 30% of the population don't sleep on it. I think I fall in that category.
I,
So you want to kind of
I'm
take
in a
it
category.
anytime. Are you in that
Taking
category?
melatonin disrupts my sleep profoundly.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't get it. I don't want it. But if I take it up until like sunset, so hours before bed, I'm fine. But actually, been taking it in the morning most times. And I didn't, at first, I was a little bit sleepy. I would just try it on the weekend. But I can take like 400 micrograms and like, well, here I am. Like I literally already did that today. And it's been an amazing thing. But oh my God, it just so prepares your skin for, I'm going to write an article deeper on like that synergy, how it's working with the melanocyte layer, but it is very, very protective and will bring on a golden tan.
Have
So it's
you
super
uh,
cool.
have you seen research on topical use of melatonin?
I have, but not in the way for the sun skin thing. It's definitely it helps so much with hair growth. So I do advise people, men, women, whoever, is you can do a hair tonic at night with using essential oils of like rosemary. That will kind of make the melatonin solvent, the powder, shake it up, and like there's those root applicators with some water, and you can just put it right on your scalp and it doesn't even make your hair oily because there's no fat oil in there. And it really like I had some men do it and they just like because men's hair is usually so short, they just you can see the thickness multiply like by 20-30% in just a week or so.
Wow.
So it's so good for hair growth.
Nadine, is there anything else that we should talk about skincare wise? Um, Anything else you want to share with people to wrap up?
Well, just like yeah, when I think we're bringing our skin to the sun, definitely have like clean sun, don't put chemical things on. You can be just your skin without oil, but if you do need that, that help, even one of our best skin evers, like the sea buckthorn best skin ever, or really any of them, will give you that little bit of sun harmonizing factor and really help meld those sunbeams with your skin. And the skin just loves feeling the sun's rays. Like we literally dilate, every pore dilates to bring on and to receive that all that messaging and that information. And I just think that's so cool that we want to be a part of that cosmic creation. And I feel like in modern times, I think previously, obviously, the elements, would really, obviously, that was one of our main challenges as humans is to like fight the elements, right? Like we need shelter and all that kind of stuff. But so we have that now. We're all in our cozy homes but we're forgetting to kind of connect up to the cosmos, to those circadian rhythms. And I feel like it's just however it means for you, like, and how you're going to architect your life or your literal like home, but just bring in the sun, start to think about it, start to hopefully time parts of your day with it. Can you see the sunrise, the sunset? Can you get out at lunchtime? And get those 20 minutes, although I also want to say about 20 minutes, yeah, get in the sun for 20 minutes, but 20 minutes of sunshine isn't like a couple times a week is not going to give you like the actual vitamin D you need at all.
Let's
you
go
know
into that the
yeah,
practical aspects of that a bit more, as far as skin type and how much sun people should be getting.
yeah, and I think something like the D Minder app is good to kind of get your training wheels on, so you can understand what is the sun doing in relation to like my longitude and latitude? And then you can put in your skin type and it will tell you, when you've had too much, how much you're creating. And I feel like you can really start to see, okay, 20 minutes at noon in April, in California versus like 20 minutes in April in Costa Rica or 20 minutes in California in July. So you can start to see it because literally the sun is, giving different like not information, but different strengths, different seasons, different days, different longitudes, latitudes, and then you've got your own being with your own skin type. So working with something like the D app will literally tell you like, okay, this is what you've hit today. And then you can really see that you do need far more than just 20 minutes. Because I'm really luckily I have, I can pop in and get the sun whenever I want. I'm like, I'm my own boss, so I can look at the sun and like drop everything, go outside, and we live in our lake. I'm really always working on like, oh my God, it's sunny, getting out there. And so I'm just saying, I do it. I'm very like, I go for it, and I still have to work at my levels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not living in California, but we do get plenty of sun. And I'm out. If I don't supplement, it's like we're at December 1st. I would be out from all my summer stuff. It's just like as soon as October comes, it just starts.
Mhm.
So
I
it's
just got
very
done playing.
individual.
I just got done playing 2 hours of tennis in the sun here in
Nice.
California
Oh,
with
it's so good.
my shirt off to get extra sun all over.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, I'll still, after this podcast is over, I'll probably take my laptop outside and do a little more work in the sun. Um,
Yeah, that's the way.
yeah, man,
There's
like I,
also t-shirts where I think it's called tanless t-shirts, and you can literally get t-shirts. They look very normal, and the sun will go through them.
oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. They have like the t-shirts are good, especially for the men. You can just get like white V-neck, crew neck, blue, normal. The bathing suits, on the other hand, for the men and women, I feel like all the fabrics are from like 1990, and they're very crazy.
Yeah,
But the shirts are great.
interesting. And as far as people with Fitzpatrick, I think it's type 1, if I remember correctly.
The
Uh,
light people, like,
yes.
yeah, the
I don't
lightest.
remember if it's type 1 or type 5. I think it's type 1.
I think it is too, and then five being darker.
Yeah, type 1. Type 1 and up to type 6 is like of African descent. Type 1 is more like Irish.
Yep.
Descent is like that's the sort of redhead, and that's actually the different type of melanin. Um,
Hmm. Oh, so that's the one that has the different melanin.
yes,
It's
that
Patrick one.
yes. Um, so do you have any thoughts on because people with those very pale skin types
Ah.
actually have way lower requirements for the sun. Like if they were to have some type of sun exposure that I'm talking about that I just engaged in
Yeah.
today, they would probably burn. And the thing about that skin type is you're much more limited in how much you can actually build up your internal
This
melanin
is
to
true.
offer that protection. So it's just genetically, ancestrally, your skin's tolerance for sunlight is going to be dramatically lower.
Very much so. Although people have found if they do, because again, some people have been like, I'm never going to skin. So they've taken that Fitzpatrick one and then like driven it home. So you
Mhm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so again, slowly but surely, which may be like when a really cool thing to look up in Google because you can see the photos, but Dr. Auguste Rollier in the 1920s in Lausanne, Switzerland. So look up his name in Lausanne, Switzerland, and you can see the photos from his hospital where they had verandas and everybody's outside and the kids are out in like these little kind of shorts in the snow even, and they're all getting sun. And you see before and afters of kids. They're black and white, but they went in like malformed with like rickets. And then a year later, it's black and white, but you can see they're all tanned and they're like upright, and it's so beautiful. So
These were
start slowly.
the original heliotherapy clinics.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's such a great archive of photos on the internet. So some people he had to start at 5 minutes, 5 minutes a day, and maybe it's just the legs or the caps. So you're starting and you're going to build. It isn't sunny every day, generally speaking. So you got to build that up. And then for those folks too, I would look at some melatonin, vitamin D levels, red algae, and some melanotan.
As far as your skincare products, do you have any thoughts on stuff that should either be used, at night or before or after sun exposure?
You can really use like anything that we make, like day and night, you can layer it. But really, that everybody loves the sunshine or the best skin ever would prep your skin before and it would prep it after. And if you jump in the lake or the ocean, you can just do don't even fully dry off. And then you can take some oil and then rub it in with that little bit of water, spread it around even more. And it will just, yeah, before, during, after, it's there for you.
hmm Are there any? I know some skincare products are photosensitive, like if you
Yes.
like you don't want to go out into the sun with them on your skin because they can actually be reactive.
Yes.
And then, what do you think, given that you're in the skincare business, one of the hot ingredients for many years now is retinol and tretinoin
Mm.
and these kinds of compounds. What do you think of those?
Well, I think actually wrote an article just a few months ago on it, and of course it's a synthetic, and there is many side effects, including it affects fertility, and there could be visual results, and it could seem exciting for first few months. But I would look at again, where's vitamin A coming in your diet? Eat some liver, eat some organ meats, and then look at the natural sources of retinol, which is like rose hips and mastic. So I give a recipe in that article and I really go through the difference between the natural and the retinol and the side effects and that kind of thing. But we don't need it.
And you use rosehip oil in a lot of your skincare products, right?
Yeah, a lot of them. And and the mastic's a certain special one. We actually use that in oral care, but it has this special property. So we use and there's a rose, we have a lot of rose serums. And then you had a question before. Oh yeah, the phototoxicity. I thought I would just mention. Generally, yeah, there are things that are phototoxic, and that generally though is of the citrus essential oils, not in a formula because it has to be more than 15%. And no formula, generally speaking, is going to have like 15% of just lemon in there. You know what I mean? And certainly nothing we make, everything we make is perfect for the sun, no photosensitivity, although we do sell individual oils, which could be. So it's the citrus family, like lemon and lime, and that's putting it straight on your skin and then going in the sun, or like bergamot, you know what I mean? So you don't, because that's 100% on your skin and then you're in the sun. And then that could create like irritation or even a kind of photopigmentation. But it's okay when it's totally blended up.
hmm
Most people aren't just putting lime straight on their body, though,
Are
hopefully.
there, and you don't recommend applying essential oils directly to the skin, right? Not, I mean, you should
No,
diet
well, there are times for
area.
that. So yeah, we call it neat. And generally, I mean, generally everything says like don't, but it's like, again, it's a nuanced situation and we don't just want to say no because there are many essential oils that are never would irritate the skin, which again, generally speaking, but every individual can be different. And there are times when you do want to use it undiluted because it's antiseptic, antiviral, antibacterial. And so let's say, your son came home with a scraped knee. Yeah, I'm going to pour like peppermint right in there. It's going to clean it. It's going to anesthetize it. It's going to be an antiseptic. It's going to make the skin seal and it's going to clean it better than any bacteriostatic BS, like better than any of that. Or if you've got a zit, like you might just want to put a drop of frankincense on there, or a scar, a fresh one or a surgical one, and you want to, let's just say it's fresh, and then you want to use frankincense to seal it and heal it, then you can start diluting that frankincense with oil to then work down the keloids. So there are times for neat application, and we even have a family of products called the doodabs, and those are pure combinations that are undiluted. So you can further dilute them, but they're really for that spot treatment and spot application of, skin eruptions and things that can go on with the skin. So there's a balance there. But then some are weighed, they're very strong. They are concentrated. You do think of them as a drop, but something like oregano, cinnamon, clove, never use those undiluted
Mhm.
because they have a good
Um,
burn.
are there any ingredients that have come onto the market in the last, I don't know, 5, 10 years that you're really excited about as far as skincare? I'm curious if you've heard of bakuchiol and what you think of.
Yeah. Well, it's just another trendy thing. It doesn't do anything really that nothing, that the essential oils and stuff won't do. And with any of those kind of hot herbal extract ingredients, there's usually two or three secondary ingredients that are made in the extraction process from the manufacturer. And it's big chemical companies that have that extract. So when you're looking behind the scenes, it isn't so pretty. And they have ways of making things trend. And also, it's just not even exciting, even if it was clean.
Mm,
It's not that exciting.
really? I saw some
Yeah.
what looked to me like impressive research. You just
Yeah, I it doesn't really stand up. And it really, when you see where it comes from, sort of behind the scenes, it's just
uh
another, it's like just making another thing trendy,
yeah.
you know.
What do you think, the whole skincare product is kind of just this, it's almost like a mess, the way I perceive it. Just
It's like the
how,
food system, like the big food, big cosmetics, so tied into the chemicals
yes,
that are produced for other industries.
yes,
In my book, I do kind of talk like about sort of there's just four elements that we need. We need like a water, we need like a fat, and then we need like, substances that can help like with the microbiome or making mass, like a probiotic powder, a clay, an algae, honey, and then like occlusive layers, like an aloe vera gel. And through all those things, you could kind of make whatever you wanted. And some botanical products like the essential oils to really like amp the active ingredients. But through all of that, that's all you need. Just sort of rearranging those ingredients, putting them together. We know what I mean? And it would just take care of all the angles. You don't need like soy oil and silicone and like 50 types of petroleum derivatives. No pore in your body is parched for some kind of petroleum cosmetic to make it like anti-age and thrive. Like
hmm,
so many of the ingredients are literally just aging us. They might have momentarily plump, like in that moment and you're looking in the mirror, you may feel like plumped and glowy, but it's not helping the cells at the long term.
hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine that applying a cream with 20 different synthetic chemicals is likely to do something good over time. Um, well, I was going to say something, but it's too much of a digression. So the other thing is that a lot of, I almost think that the natural skincare marketplace is a bit of a mess right now as well.
It is.
Because I just see so many companies just throwing together sort of random mishmashes of different ingredients that they build these fancy looking web pages for it, and they'll list off this long list of like exotic sounding ingredients, but none of them have any actual research showing benefits. Like it's all marketing and no science, and it's just kind
Yeah,
of
or let's just highlight these key ingredients. The key ingredients thing drives me crazy because it's just
right.
the ones that you'd want to read about. Then you go to the ingredients, and it's just like
And you see all the synthetics that they're
the
hiding.
stuff you do
Yeah.
not even ever want near you. Yeah. So it's like even I mean, if for some reason I like didn't have like my if I ran it like actually we had a house fire once and I couldn't yeah, obviously there was no libations. Like I had people like bringing me their like half bottles and I had to go to like a store in Toronto get their stuff. But anyway, so that being said, if I were to just need to go to a health food store and get skincare, like I kind of would just buy like the bottle of organic olive oil and the apple cider vinegar and some baking soda and be done with it and wait till I could make libations because like even the health food store is so much BS, as you would know even from food shopping on one level. And yeah, there's just so many ingredients. First of all, there's even natural ingredients that you don't want to use because maybe the quality or they go rancid, like almond oil, peach kernel oil, grapeseed oil. They're all rancid, and as if almond oil is even almond oil anymore. Just like olive oil is barely olive oil, you know what I mean? So
Mm.
they go rancid, they go off, and then are they even using a real essential oil? They could probably using a derivative of that, you know what I mean? And then with organic skincare certification, only 80% has to be organic. what's allowed in that other 20% is mind blowing. But then even what's allowed in that 80%, quite frankly, is mind blowing to me because the amount of processing, folding, refractionating, and like processing that is allowed to be done to those ingredients, and then it's still allowed to be organic. Like you could have an organic jojoba, but you might winterize it and deodorize it, like kind of what they do with like a canola, and that's still organic. And then you're allowed methylparabens in an organic product, and that's only like under 1% anyway. And then what most people are doing is they're kind of gaming it because let's just say, like, generally a lotion is like 50 to 60% water. And then it's kind of like making mayonnaise. You have a water, you have the fat, and then the egg is the emulsifier, bringing it all together. So every lotion is water and oil brought together by an emulsifier. So for the water part of the lotion, they'll use something like you may have seen like what do they call it? Like lavender extract or like lavender, not a lavender water, but like I don't know, lavender tea. I forget what they call it for the Latin name, but basically what it is like making a lavender tea water and calling that water organic, and then that's 60% of your product. So now you've already taken care of a huge part of your organic requirements because that's 60%, and it's just this tea water.
Mm.
It's one of the first ingredients, and that the lavender flowers to make that tea water were organic. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
lots
That's
of
crazy.
games. Yeah. And most
Yeah.
essential oils, aren't real. Most are using fragrance oils, but then even when you get into the world of essential oils, there's a lot that are just like not authentic. You can often detect it with your nose, but like most people would be like, oh yeah, that smells like peppermint or eucalyptus, but it could have synthetic menthol in there or whatever. So there's a lot of games played to kind of get to that. I don't know, everybody's wants that, right? The bottom line is just generally for a lot of those businesses is just different than how you and I would think of how we would want a bottom line.
What would you say are your top, let's say, 5 or 6 compounds for skin health, for natural skincare?
I love frankincense. It's just gorgeous. It's ancient. It is so like skin healing, helping renew the cells. It works just magic on the skincare. So it's like top. And of course, we have like 10 different types, but we'll just frankincense in general. Sea buckthorn, so healing. I've been using that. I found my distiller for that in 1992, and we have been rocking it ever since. And I've now seen it become popular. It wasn't even known before. So that's a beautiful classic. I mean, of
Mhm.
course, rose in all of its forms is is timeless and beautiful, and it's actually way more medicinal than we might think. It is just as antibacterial as clove is, because clove is so obviously antibacterial. So it's really good. It's really good for scars. That's three. Jojoba. I mean, it is the oil, but it's beautiful. So most people, it's one of the most expensive plant oils. So that's an oil, like a fatty oil. It's not an essential oil. It's like fatty, like olive oil. And it's made from the desert plant. So beautiful skincare. It matches our sebum. It's like the most synergistically sebum compatible oil on the planet. And it's actually a liquid wax, and it protects the plant in the desert. But it's so cool that it's a liquid wax, and it goes solid if it's frozen, and it has a stability if it's stored properly for 100 years.
Wow.
No oil has that. And so that's why I've been formulating with it since, again, 1990. And the reason is because it doesn't go rancid. And so like it's just so awesome because we don't want to ever put rancid things on our body. And so it's just so awesome. But it's just a lot of people don't use it because it is the most expensive. But again, those are the choices I like making because I'm like, it just makes so much sense to me to go for that beautiful quality.
I have one last question for you that I think you're going to have some interesting answers for. Take your time thinking about it before you answer.
Okay.
Even if you need a minute, we'll edit out that minute of time if
We have
necessary.
some music going. Do, do,
Yeah,
do.
exactly. Um, I would love for you to debunk maybe two or three myths that exist in the skincare realm um, that maybe even exist in the realm of natural skincare, things that people are under the impression are good for their skin, but are really not. Does
Mm.
anything come to mind to you in that category?
Well, of course, one of the things, because we've been talking about it, literally sun. Like you will get everybody tell you not to be in the sun. And I'm here to say, be in the sun. And, again, I get older every year like everybody else, but I don't think it has contributed to any type of skin aging. So there's that. The other thing I think is pretty key is don't wash with soap on, like, you don't, obviously, you're gonna use soap, scrub your nails, wash your pits, wash your bits, but your skin doesn't need it and your face really doesn't need it at all, ever. So we wash with oil, we cleanse with oil. And when I was trying to figure this out like 30 years ago, I was looking at, which is kind of what I do for each sort of body area, because I just know we're not kind of doing it right. So I'm like, kind of step back. I want to look at the biological systems. So like, what is the sun, or like what is going on in our bodies to clean our teeth, because we weren't born with a toothbrush in our hands. So I'm trying to like see all that. And so I was looking at what are ancient cultures, how were they cleaning their skin? And you really have quite a cross-cultural transhistorical use of oil for cleaning the skin.
Hmm.
Whether it was Turkish baths where they're oiling up and then using a striegel, which is kind of like a gua sha, but it's a scraper, but not like scraping hard, like a butter knife kind of thing.
Mhm.
So you're oiling up and then you're scraping the oil, which is like clearing and cleansing and lifting the dirt out with it. And we had that. The Berber women always wash their face with the oil. Roman baths, ancient Chinese culture, you got Egypt. They're all using oil. Cleopatra would use alligator fat or crocodile fat to cleanse her face. And so we're looking at oil. And so it's great because what it does is it cleanses the pores, it lifts off the dirt, but you're not disrupting the microbiome. So with these foaming cleansers and our modern synthetic surfactants, what we're now understanding through understanding the microbiome is that you can get these sort of microscopic splinters in the top layer in the stratum corneum, and they don't go away with rinsing. So you're getting this microscopic buildup of surfactants in the stratum corneum, sort of like through the course of time.
That's if you're using soap.
Yeah, if you're using soap like that, all the variations we have of like the foaming cleansers, because it feels good and it seems, I don't know, soap, we like soap, but it seems like that's how we're supposed to clean our
It's
face.
foamy. It's got bubbles.
Yeah,
What more
exactly.
do you
And then
need?
exactly. Then you're all tight and then you've thrown off your whole lipid barrier and blah, blah, blah. So then your skin might get more oily because it's trying to compensate for like the parching that you've just sort of given it. And as gross as it sounds, we can't we don't want to over exfoliate, and we kind of need a little bit of sebum action because the bacteria on our skin kind of need to feed off that, and we kind of, even though it's gross, have to kind of pull back, stop fussing with our face so much, and let the bacteria be the beautician. So with oil, it's very compatible with our microbiome, and it's literally cleansing, and it doesn't mess up the stratum corneum or the lipid barrier. So you just like, there's a few ways to do it, but you're basically just wetting your face, and you can use a cotton pad or a face cloth, put a spot of water on there, a squirt of your best skin ever, squirt of Everybody Loves Sunshine, massaging that over the face, lifting it off. If you're wearing makeup, obviously, then use a cotton pad. Then you rinse and you just put on one more squirt. And that's all like men need, women need. And it literally changes people's skin. Like people with cystic acne or acne in general might be, oh my God, that sounds so scary. But of course, you've got to use real oil. We're not talking baby oil. We're not talking synthetic weird stuff. Use a true jojoba olive oil or like something like the best skin ever. And it will literally just transform your skin and it will clear up the acne. It might take a couple of days to like a month or like 6 weeks, but you will see the transition. Most people see a transition within like 48 hours.
Uh, Two quick questions. One
Hmm.
is, have you, I'm sure since you're into peptides, you've heard of GHKCU, copper
Yes.
peptides. What do you
Yeah.
think of those? There seems to be some really
Yeah.
impressive looking
There's a,
research on it.
I think there's a lot that's impressive about it. It can, it's supposed to balance copper, but it can throw off copper for some people. So for some, it can grow the hair. And it may be good if you have a deficiency, but then it can throw off some people's copper. So what I've seen is it can create acne or hair shedding, even though it also has a lot of good things. Now, to take it internally, like to inject it, it does seem like kind of the amount you kind of like want to cycle more than like kind of an injection a day to really get it in.
I've heard that from talking to a peptide expert that injecting it is almost like you need so much of it so frequently that it's almost
Yeah.
like meaningless. But topical use of it for the skin, for skin anti-aging.
Topical can be, yeah, and you can just, it's easy to get online, and then you can just put it into like a spray and spray it, or you can literally just mix it into like a cream. You just
Mhm.
need, like, I wouldn't mix it in with an oil because it needs like a bit of a water soluble. And then you can just like take our Mavic cream or anything and just put it in and use it that way. And that is a good way to do it. But just be knowing that, like, and just watch yourself, because if a lot of people are deficient in copper and it helps a lot of people, but then some people it just throws it right off.
Mm.
So if you do get acne,
Taking it internally, right?
well, either it depends. Like even topically for some people, it can create acne.
Mm,
So
interesting.
it's just it's lovely, but it's just like just know, like as with anything, try it out, monitor it, and see what's happening. Sorry about Angel. Come
No.
here. I'll pet you.
Essential oils, also one more thing on that. Do you have
Yeah.
any concern with some of these essential oils disrupting the skin microbiome?
Well, they don't, because it's like how they work in oral care. So yes, they are antibacterial, antifungal, viral, that kind of thing. So they sound disruptive, but there's something, I mean, we still don't know all the whys, but it's like in oral care, they've studied it. And so they are antifungal, and so that's what you need to clean up your mouth. But then some dentists think, oh no, like it would be too strong and would kill things off. But what the studies show is that the essential oils act like quorum sensing inhibitors, QSI for short, and that inhibits the pathogens from grouping up and creating gene expression and grouping up to then create a biofilm, that kind of thing. So what the QSI of the essential oils does, like clove in your mouth, it will bust up the pathogens. It will prevent the biofilm, yet it will be compatible to the beneficial bacteria, which is exactly the kind of like stealth skincare that we need right now, because it can tidy up the pathogens, but work beneficially with the microbiome. And so, for example, for like feed, like animal agriculture feed in Europe, they're using things like oregano and rosemary in chicken feed instead of antibiotics because it's helping the whole situation. It's preventing the use of antibiotics because these essential oils are, again, able to work with pathogens but not disrupt the beneficial bacteria. So that's kind of cool.
Last question. What are your personal favorite products of your own line? What do you use personally?
Yeah. Let's see, right now I always use the Neroli Poetic Pits for my underarm charm. That's my favorite. We have so many good men ones though. I don't know, have you ever tried the Poetic Pits? I'll
I
send you.
I'm in a unique situation. Number one, I'm not particularly smelly. Uh,
Yeah, although people find though that you just need like one touch and you're good for 2 or 3 days, and all it does is like make you smell better. Like it takes you and then go just, makes almost like makes you a cologne. Do you know what I mean?
here's the other thing.
Okay.
You interrupted too soon because I was about to tell you
Sorry.
the real important part, which is that my wife actually likes the smell of
Oh,
my
of
natural
course.
scent.
Yes.
So I'm already
That is
producing my
key.
natural cologne. I don't want to disrupt that.
Well, I think you'll find your wife would just, it just is like you plus. It never takes away your smell. It just is like makes it awesome.
No,
But
I
of
know.
course,
She uses Poetic Pits and she
there
loves it.
you,
Yeah. Yeah.
there you go. So I'm in the Neroli. For my teeth, I'm loving I think we launched it like last year, but our triple mint because it has the nano hydroxyapatite in it. So I'm loving that for teeth. I wash with the Immortelle Best Skin Ever. We've got I've got a new shampoo coming out called Calendula Comfort. So I use that, and it has this really awesome conditioner that we've infused with black walnut. So we're rocking that. I do keep it pretty simple. I mean, I know I use other things, but that's sort of my like classics. And the doodab, I use the Queen Dew, which is our like one of our doodab family, and I use that for everything.
Awesome. Let people know where they can get your products. So yeah, like I said to everybody listening, I mean, we really are a fan. These are the skincare products that I use, that my wife uses in particular, and that my kids literally use. My kids, it's really funny. My 5-year-old daughter is putting this not this one,
Aw.
the
Joy, baby Joy.
sea buckthorn,
Oh, the sea buckthorn.
best skin ever. She's like, she asks for it every night. She needs to put it on her legs,
Aw.
and she just loves it. She loves the feeling of it. So we are a fan,
I
big
love that.
fans of your products. Nadine, it was an absolute pleasure connecting with you again. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing, for the amazing products that you're putting out into the world. And the brand, by the way, I don't know if we mentioned that, but it's called Living Libations. So if people want to go to the website and check things out, Living Libations is Nadine's brand. Anything else you want to say to wrap up, Nadine?
Well, just thank you so much for having me as a guest again. And I look just so happy that we could connect, talk about the sun. And my books are also on the website, and also they're Audible. They're available on Audible as well, both the dental, holistic dental care, and Renegade Beauty.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nadine. I look forward to talking to you again. Hopefully not after so many years. Hopefully we can do this
Ah,
again sometime soon.
love that. Thank you.